I'm never surprised by controversies that are whipped up in Washington. Right? That's par for the course. But I'll repeat what I said 2 days ago.
Sure.
We have a basic principle. We do not leave anybody wearing the American uniform behind.
How about the one in Mexico?
We had a prisoner of war.
No, he wasn't. He was a deserter.
Whose health had deteriorated.
Liar, pants on fire.
And we were deeply concerned about it, and we saw an opportunity, and we seized it. And I make no apologies for that.
Liar, pants on fire. So we have an extremist president who was so out of the ken of normalcy, even within the Democrat leftist machine, that they're distancing themselves from the extremist president. I want to talk about extremism today on the Savage Nation. And the only way for you to understand this is for me to put it in reverse. Now, let's say we had elected in 2008 a white man from somewhereville, USA, who had spent 20 years in an extremist Christian church that preached white supremacy and then denied that he had listened to the preacher preach white supremacy. And the preacher had been a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and he became president and surrounded himself by extremely radical right-wing ideologues, Health and Human Services, Defense Department, closed down the EPA. And we had this right-wing president now for 6 years doing one imperious thing after another and shocking everyone daily with an outcry running across the land. Then you'd understand what we're talking about when I say to you extremism. Because we have the most extremist president in American history who is so smooth and such a con man. I mean, after all, he's not stupid. He didn't become president by being dumb. He's the greatest con man in the history of America. A man with no experience whatsoever, with a shady background on the far left, as president, getting away with virtual murder. And so what is extremism? Well, let's look at the definition first. Radicalism, fanaticism, extreme, the thesaurus would say, excess, the ultimate, maximum, limit, top, utmost, uttermost, last extremity, bitter end, etc. You get the picture. An extremist is defined in the thesaurus as radical, fanatic. Extreme is defined as an adjective, of course: immoderate, dire, drastic, ultra, utter, rank, extremist, radical, rabid, fanatical. Excessive is defined in a different way. Intense is defined in another way. Excessively is defined in another way. So by any definition, Obama is an extremist. So I'm asking you, if we had a stealth Manchurian candidate of the right who had gone to a church for 20 years and listened to a preacher preaching white supremacism and calling for the most extreme acts in America along the lines, let's say, of the Third Reich, but not quite as extreme, because Reverend Wright, to his credit, didn't call for the extermination of any race. We have to give him credit for that, for his moderation in that regard. But let's say as close to the wall as you could get without having the FBI, invade your church for inflammatory remarks that could set people off. And we had elected this right-winger, this white man who wore a cross, by the way, in every presentation. And instead of saying Allah be praised in some of his speeches, he would say, praise the Lord, bless Jesus, etc. If this extremist right-winger had won the presidency, and we were 6 years into the presidency, and he had enacted the following events, tell me what would be going on in this country. On Borders, Language, and Culture, this extremist right-winger president would uphold the law. He would have put troops on the border with Mexico. He would have started the deportation process, and he would have begun with the 30% of illegal aliens in prisons. He would have started by cleaning out our prisons and deporting them. They would be gone. All the Mexican gangs would be deported out of America. And he would have committed a felony. Who even had a dual citizenship would be thrown out of the country. Anyone who had a gang affiliation from a foreign country would be thrown out of the country. So that's the first thing the extremists would have done. Of course, the New York Times would have had their panties not only in a bunch, but they would be wearing them on their heads, running up and down Fifth Avenue.